Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Velma Bagby, and this is my Dr. Velma Talks that happens every Tuesday at 2 or just after 2. I just want to thank you for those of you who are following me, those of you who are participating. I'm so grateful that you have been joining in. Today, I thought I needed to just review some things we talked about and introduce you to a couple of the things that's addressed in my Your Adam is Asleep Until God Opens His Eyes book. And I hope to begin introducing some of the elements of my new book. If the fish aren't biting, it's time to change the bait. Just as a disclaimer, just want to make sure you understand that this is a Christian site. It is designed for Christian singles, but I love the fact that I have some men also joining in, and the information is helpful to them as well. So thank you all for your participation. Feel free to share this if you'd like to share it with someone else. And I thank you all. Remember that my website is drvelma.com, https / twice and then colon drvelma.com. So if you wish to access some of the information I've been referencing, it's located on my site. And I hope to gather more information as well. So just wanted to make note of the fact that I have been hosting these lives since my anniversary. My husband and I celebrated our 47th wedding anniversary on February 16th, 2021. And I decided that it was exciting about my starting this Dr. Velma Talks. And I felt that it was just appropriate for me to begin the talk on the day of my anniversary. How ironic is that? How exciting is that? So I thank you. So I just wanted to go over a few things with you. So I'm actually, let's see, I counted that I've had 5 episodes so far, and this is episode number 6. I'm hoping to see where God wants to take this next. And I've been talking about a private group at some point, so I'm hoping that will happen soon. I am not sure if I will set it up similar to the way I used to have my groups. I had a singles group, and then I had a marriage group, so that those who were married, we can talk and share. But the reason I try to interject some wisdom in terms of what married life will be like, because I think that's important for preparation, that we understand what that life is like and what you should expect. And so what better way to prepare is to have your mindset ready to go, and that you're not fumbling around trying to figure out what is my role now. So I just want to say thank you, and I just want to review a couple of things. We talked about the husband-to-be list last week, and we talked about those things that are conditions that we want to avoid putting conditions on our list, and to always be mindful of the fact that we're praying that God will send this person, but we're also praying that God will get us ready for that person, because that's the piece that we miss sometimes. It's important to prepare your heart for that life that God will have for you. And so we talked about conditions, definitely not titles. And we talked about physical conditions: tall, short, medium build, big build, muscles, must be athletic. I mean, there's a host of things. All of those things will be a wash 20 years from now, 30 years from now. None of those things may exist anymore. So those are conditions. So we have to be careful of those conditions. The other things we talked about is making sure that we remember the foundation of everything is God Himself. God Himself is intentional. He does everything with the intent behind it. He always has purpose in what He does. And so should it be with you when you're asking God for your mate and you're waiting for that mate to arrive. It should be based on conditions, not conditions, I'm sorry. It should be based on intentions. Intentions meaning that your goal or your intent or your purpose in meeting someone is to, at some point, end in marriage. So your intentions or your goal or your purpose in dating is that. And so therefore your questions, and as you get to know a person, your questions should be structured that way. You should know what his intent is and what your intent is. And I'll get into the 40-day rule next week, but today I just want to review a few things. And so it's important for you to believe in yourself again. I looked at the insights of those who have been watching this, and it's interesting that the age group goes from very few 20-somethings, but 30s, 40s, and up. And so that says to me that you're seasoned and you have some experience under your belt, and maybe there's some bad or poor experiences. And this is the time you want to get it right. And so I just want you to understand you need to refresh. And remember, I talked about your heart not being occupied. God cannot fill a heart that's already occupied with a whole bunch of other things: past history, past experiences, past people. All of that has to be cleared out. And so that's your foundation. That's your starting point. Build a foundation. Fall in love with God first, because he must be a part of the process. The scripture says a threefold cord, once you're married, cannot be broken, which means that it's you, your husband, and God. Those are the only three, not your mama, not your daddy, not your uncle or your cousin Nim. I said Nim. And so it's important for you to make sure that your relationship with God, fall in love with fall in love with your father first, your spiritual father. In terms of God, God should be first and should be the foundation. And then remember who he says you are. You are queenly. He calls you someone special. So it's important for you to remember that. And if you remember those elements, you will know how you're supposed to be treated. And so therefore, it's important for you as a woman of God to be treated the way God has expected a man to treat you. And so that's what's important, to know what to expect, to know how to establish those intentional questions when you're initially meeting someone, and making sure that your goal is always to end in marriage. So that's what intention means. Intentional dating means dating with a purpose, dating with a goal in mind. And so the things that I want to talk to you about is a few things that I had on the website, and you'll see some of those handouts if you were to go into the website and go down, scroll down to where the 4 women are. You will see the different scenarios there. And it's important to me, after ministering and counseling with single as well as married couples over the years, I always find some kind of trend and some things that I feel is important to share. And I included it in the website. And here are the 3 things. And the 3 things that I talk about are the 3 things that you are not called to be as a woman in a marriage relationship. These are the 3 things God has never called you to be. He told the husband to expect to treat his wife as Christ treats the church. And we know exactly how Jesus loves us. We know exactly how Jesus covers us. We know exactly how Jesus prays for us. All of those elements and those roles that Jesus had, he expects the husband to have in the house too. To be the king of his home does not mean he's there with a whip and a taskmaster. No, he's there to love and cover and protect and provide. He's the prayer. He's the priest of the home, which means he offers prayers and believes God for his family and covers his family and all their needs. And so the 3 things I wanted to mention to you that a woman is not called to be, and that they are a fixer-upper, an animal rescue, and I think I might not have enough time for the temp, but let me see how much time I have to cover these. So here's the thing about a fixer-upper. God did not call, this is in the dating process. I'm not talking about those of us who are married, because we do have to support our husband. We do have to pray for them, and we'll talk about prayer the next time, because prayer begins for your husband even before you meet him, because prayer will continue even after you're married. Because none of us come into a relationship perfect. But the goal is that God will help us each to change what we need to change so that we can be better in that relationship that he's blessed us to have. And so a spouse fixer-up is what I call it, is a person who, before they're even married, this is for women, where you think that you have to fix him or change him to make him marriage material. And that is never a role that we were called to do. He must figure that out himself. A man must discover who he is and who God has called him to be on his own. In his relationship with God, God will show him how to do that. But there's so many women who think they have to fix a man in order to make him marriage material. That is not your calling, and that is not your role. And so these are the women who will set out to get married and do whatever they can to make this guy ready for marriage at any cost, with any man, ignoring any red flags that she might see, because she believes that she can fix him and make him a perfect husband. That is not your job. you're dating a person, you're being introduced to a person, but it's not your job to fix that person and make him husband ready. The other one is, and the book goes into more detail about that topic. The other one is the woman who's called the animal rescue, or at least acts like an animal rescue. In this particular one, it relates to people who have a beautiful gift and a beautiful calling to rescue animals. And that's what they do, and it's a special calling. They have a love for animals. They hate to see them hurt. They hate to see them in unhealthy situations, so they will rescue them. Or an animal that's been abandoned and maybe injured, they will rescue those animals, bring them into their home, and get them, treat them so that they try to get them back to a healthy state, and would care for them, even when that animal may not necessarily appreciate them, because sometimes these animals are hurt or injured and they will attack the very person they're trying to help, that's trying to help them. So it can be dangerous too, because the animal doesn't know you're trying to help them, because at that point they're injured and they're trying to protect themselves. And so in animal rescue, these are the kind of women who think their job is to go out there and rescue a man injured, a man that's got some issues, a man that has some brokenness, a man that has some baggage that he hasn't unloaded and hasn't addressed, because they think they can rescue him. They think that they can fix all these things that are broken in him, when they can't. You cannot do that. I mean, God is God, and there's this woman who's playing God, thinking that she can fix this man so that she can then marry this person. And that's totally out of the order of the way God expects us to find our mates. And so what she does is, she, just like the animal rescue, she makes excuses for why he's angry. She makes excuses for why he is traumatized, that it's not his fault. That's what the animal rescue will tell you. This animal is mean right now and testy because it's not their fault. Someone else did this to them, and so this is how they're reacting. Well, if this is a human being, if this is a man, that's totally inappropriate. Inappropriate for a woman to take on such a role. Great calling for women, men who love and protect animals, but it is not the calling of a woman to be the rescuer of a man that she's dating, and then make excuses for some of his bad behavior. And so, and also, just like the animal rescue makes excuses for the problems because it's not his fault, these are the things that were done to him. And then they, in turn, same thing as the animal rescuer, these women will nurture this man and all his insecurities and his shortcomings and his brokenness, hoping that they can repair him. And so they make excuses for his problems and his bad behavior. Now, this is someone they're dating. That is so out of the line of God's order. He never called any woman to fix up a man, to make him husband ready, like in the case of the animal rescue, and make excuses for some of his shortcomings. And I think that my time is winding up. I think that I won't have time to go into the temp discussion, but these are all conversations around making sure that you date intentionally, which means that because God is intentional, he always does things on purpose. And I remember sharing with you some, during the first segment, I believe it was, where they did a survey of the women who were married. And most of the women who were married always set a goal to get married. They never set that goal aside. It was always their goal to get married. So we have to make sure, and we can get into conversations around intentional dating questions. We can talk about that later, but you have to make sure your first goal is that you intend to be married, that you are being intentional in your dating, that you're not wasting time with people or men who are not interested in marriage. If they're not interested in marriage, then you already know that's not the person for you. And so you have to move on. So there are specific things you need to ask when you're dating intentionally, and there's specific things you need to know. But today, what I want you to know, that these two situations are not your calling. You're not called to be a spouse fixer-upper while dating, which means you're dating someone and you're trying to fix him and make him marriage material. No, no, no. The second one is you're not called to be animal rescue while you're dating. You are not called to try to rescue someone who's broken, injured, and hurt and fix him up to make him marriage material. That's not your calling. What we have to do as wives to help and support our husbands once we're in that marriage is a totally different ball game than what you have to do while you're dating and asking God to reveal the mate that he has for you. And so therefore, you have to be careful. You are not married to anyone that you're dating. You're not obligated to anyone that you're dating. And so it's important that you scrutinize the people that you meet and make sure that you're prayerful. Remember that group I told you to have, the parade around principle, where you have people surrounding you who can vet the person, people who love you and care for you, who can look at this individual that you're thinking might be the perfect mate for you and can say yay or nay, who can say, yeah, I don't see any red flags, seems like a good person. Everything that I've seen so far sounds perfect. So it's important for you to surround yourself with what I call that special group who will help to vet the person that comes into your life. So that's all I have for you today for Dr. Velma Talks. I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. And thank you for those of you who can't tune in at 2 o'clock. Many of my supporters on the East Coast, I know that you watch the replay. Make sure you leave your comments, so I'd love to hear what you have to say. If you have questions or if you have something you'd like for me to cover, I would be happy to address those. And I say thank you. Have a great afternoon, and I hope this helps somebody. Please share and encourage others to watch as well. Thank you, and have a great day. This is Dr. Velma. Dr. Velma Talks. Bye.